This was a Skype that took place October the 19th, 2019, because these Charles African shows concluded, I think, around May of 2020. They ran for a duration, I think, of about 6 years, because when I came into the new presentation in 2017, they were constantly going on then. If I remember, originally the African shows were every week, every I can't remember if they were I think they were every Saturday, or possibly every Saturday, and then they changed to fortnightly, and then that's how they ran for, I think, another couple of years, and then they terminated around May of 2020. Like Duane says, Charles was very literal, and I think in the end he just was unable to get past his literal mind, and so he would walk away, which was a shame in a way, because these African shows did make for very good YouTube videos, and I was constantly putting them out, and they were very well received.
Charles, what do you think about your standing as the new man with the new message for the contemporary world? I ask this because acknowledgement by the world of your presence will go a long way to propagate the wake-up call which you are engaged in. Duane responds, what we've gone through in history is interesting. Again, everything is made up. This is creation. We make everything up. You might say nothing's for certain. We're just presenting what we do that makes sense with a world that really doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that the world is agreeing to self-destruction and doesn't recognize it at all. There's so much subliminal agreement. Just to get something across to people in many different ways is a challenge. So it's a step at a time, and it multiplies also. There's many people out there that know about this. They like what they read about it, etc., but they're still afraid, and are still agreeing with the system to be afraid and to not step up. Life on this planet is a struggling survival, and you have to struggle to survive, and then try to figure out why you're even here. Most people don't know why they're here. Most people don't have a purpose. They may have a job, a career, but that's not a purpose, and they're struggling to survive. This is very real. It gets to be more real all the time, and as I write the groups with what I see, I try to cover so many angles to assist people. But the bottom line is people have to step up. They have to have the courage and make sense of what's going on in this world. Not just pretend that if they vote for some politician that says pretty words to deceive people that things are going to be fine. Well, it really doesn't work like that. In the last 300 years, look at the transition that has taken place just in the United States here, which has affected the world because it's been set up like that by those who really rule and control the world on this surface world. They have a big control on the real side too, and the unconscious also. But there are things taking place to offset that. But again, it needs agreement. Things are only going to happen accordingly because there's huge agreement with what is going on in the world. That's why it's going on. The planes in the sky, the chemtrail planes, the laser weapon planes, the HARP, the GMO food, the vaccines. It's there because people keep agreeing to it. There are some people who are stepping up, but it's not about protesting. It's not about taking what the governments have created and manoeuvring it this way or that. When you protest, and even in the Constitution, it says people have the right to grievances to the government. But that's a set-up. It's all set up. You're just agreeing with what they've decided, and all these funny words and ideas that they've created. All this political stuff. I utilize these things. I use the system, but have created a whole new position here that's unique to itself, the new presentation. And yes, it takes courage to step up, otherwise you're the effect. So again, you can't just jump on the bandwagon and think someone's going to carry you. You can't do that. Yes, we give people a hand, but we can't live their lives. We can't decide for them, and we can't figure it out for them. This is where the real recognition comes in, and it's a challenge. But it's the best challenge of your life. To do it, to figure it out every single moment, because this is how life is. There's no la-la land here, and people chase ideas that are marketed to them, that are distracting, deceptive, and destructive. All of that, but they don't see it, and they keep agreeing with it, and little by little things get worse every day. It's all about recognizing what's taking place and supporting the natural environment, which will then support you, and figuring this out and what this means, and stepping up, and it's in the doing. We do the Skypes, the Facebooks, etc., but it's actually going out and facing everything. I was out in the public when I started with Paul in 1970 for 30 years, and when I took the rod of power in 2001, always facing it, facing this world here, not pretending, not hiding. Plus, I had my own business, etc. I did everything. I figured it out. Figured all this to this point here. It's stepping up and figuring it out. Who will do that? It's each person that needs to do it. I know many people look to what I'm creating and writing, and yes, that's the first step. But at the same time, it's standing real in your own position and recognizing this isness and joining in and doing something realistically too. This is happening all over the world. But again, many people's personal lives are very important to them. That comes first. And yes, you have to survive, but realistically, that's only going to work so long. For people to really recognize what's going on, each person must get involved. Just like when Paul was here and he produced certain things, and when the secret knowledge of dreams first came out, I immediately took that and created classes in the colleges. I did that for years. All I did was pound the beat with that, going out to libraries, community rooms, in banks, fairs, everything, and did it all by myself, putting flyers throughout this town many times, and every business, and created the flyers. The old days where I had to take them to a printer. We didn't have computers. I did all that footwork and faced it all, and this is how real it is. It's not some thought form or something you see on Facebook and how you like the pictures, etc. It's where it becomes your whole life. Otherwise, you just stay in the personal self. And when the surprises come in this world and things happen, and you get too old and feeble to move around, well, suddenly you've got to deal with it, and thinking how you can just walk to the doctor and they're going to fix you. Well, they're not. They will fix you all right, but you're going to be worse off. It's getting something out to this world to where people understand it, and that takes a lot of creativity, takes a lot of facing it, and it's very, very real, more real than you can even imagine. This creation, this personal self we have here, is such a secondary thing, and eventually you can get to the point to where you don't need it anymore. The personal self is like a little tricycle. You're really going nowhere until you really start to recognize your real awareness. Learn to recognize your real awareness, then learn to recognize the all is. Otherwise, you're lost in the personal self. It doesn't matter how good you feel about yourself. That's fine. That's part of it. But that's the personal self. Your real awareness is more like the sun shining. It's very real, and it sees everything. So it's learning to stand with that, and that's what the guides do. It's a heck of a challenge. Who will step up and make it real? Every moment of the day, I focus on this all the time. This is my life. I do everything I can, and have been here with Ava over 9 years, every single day, just providing this to make sure people can step up, that they have something. Also, the bigger picture, the galactic surprise that's coming. I've been working on that on the real side, and had to decide it. Nobody decided it for me. I decided everything so that eventually it comes into fruition. And who will step up and be a part of that? There's a bigger picture here, because all of creation is imploding, very real. To get something out there that makes sense and can be understood is a toughie. We're here to wake each other up. That's why we're here. This is the whole of life. To wake each other up, and that's very real. And how we're going to do that and figure it out. That's the reality that life is. We've figured it out this far, and that's what we're doing here. That's why you're here, and that's the purpose. And then the real purpose is to recognize the ease and stand real with it. But that's a big step. But at least to have a purpose, and that purpose, why you came here, is to wake yourself up and to wake up others, because this is how we get out of here.
Yes, a flash from the past, Kevin. Yes, those were fun in those days. I really liked them. I really liked Charles and his questions. They were very literal, but it was fine because people need that in the beginning. They need to personally start to understand something and then go from there. And so didn't always answer his questions directly, but kind of went roundabout. I think at times that kind of bothered him, and also that they were kind of a long explanation, but how can you just explain something that that you really can't explain, that you can only hint at as a reference? And so, but again, it's there, and what I see, it's not because of me, but because of what I see and what I've created, not on the personal level, but just that what I see and then I'm able to create is that it's not along the lines of a teaching. You know, as we've known teachings to be, okay, which become really a lot of emotional attachment to old ideas, especially like Jesus and the Bible and God and all these things, where people start just getting all these weird emotional attachments. But that this is much more real. It's really references to what already is real, to recognize it and then to take part with it. So yeah, I appreciate you stepping up and doing this and everything you do, because this is what life is. We are waking ourselves up and others, and by the very fact we step up and really do something more than we've ever done, that's the real wake up right there. It's not so much in the experiences, but it's in the awareness which supersedes that. And that's always something more so that's unseen than even with the awareness that we do have. So there's always something more there. So we're just in the, we're kind of like in kindergarten here in creation. It's a very minute view, even though some people think that all of a sudden they all know the whole of life, but no way. You can't even, really consider what it is because it's so much better. But yes, thank you so much, Kevin. That's cool.